More than a year after George Floyd's murder set off national protests and a racial reckoning, the former police officer found guilty in his death, Derek Chauvin, was sentenced by a Minnesota judge today to 22.5 years in prison. In a moment, William Brangham looks at the sentence and the continuing reverberations of this case. But first, special correspondent Fred DeSam Lazaro reports from Minneapolis.
I'm not going to attempt to be profound or clever, because it's not the appropriate time.
Judge Peter Cahill said his sentence was based strictly on specific facts of the case and the law, not on public opinion, not to send any message, though he had a personal one.
I want to acknowledge the deep and tremendous pain that all the families are feeling, especially the Floyd family. You have our sympathies.
That pain was emotionally on display as proceedings began this afternoon with victim statements from George Floyd's family, recalling the impact of his death. In video captured by a bystander, Chauvin held his knee on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes as Floyd pleaded that he could not breathe.
If you could say anything to your daddy right now, what would it be?
It would be, I miss you and I love you.
Following 7-year-old daughter Gianna, the court heard from George Floyd's brothers, Terrence and Philonis Floyd.
I wanted to know from the man himself, why? What were you thinking? What was going through your head when you had your knee on my brother's neck? Why when you knew that he posed no threat anymore, he was handcuffed, why you didn't at least get up? Why you stayed there?
My family and I have been given a life sentence. We would never be able to get George back. Daddy's our daughter's first love. He would never be able to walk Gianna down the aisle at her wedding, attend those magical moments of her life.
I believe.
For the first time in this case, the court heard also from a member of Chauvin's family.
When you sentence my son, you will also be sentencing me.
Carolyn Polenti called her son a good man dedicated to his work.
Derek is a quiet, thoughtful, honorable, and selfless man. He has a big heart, and he always has put others before his own. The public will never know the loving and caring man he is.
That theme was picked up by Chauvin's attorney, Eric Nelson.
He was a solid police officer, that he did his job. He was decorated as a police officer. Multiple life-saving awards. He was decorated for valor. And he, too, is a son, and a brother, and a father.
Mr. Chauvin, as to count one.
Cahill's sentence of 22.5 years is 10 years more than state guidelines, the judge citing several aggravating factors, including particular cruelty shown to Floyd. In a brief statement, Chauvin himself stopped short of an apology.
At this time, due to some additional legal matters at hand, I'm not able to give a full formal statement at this time. But very briefly, though, I do want to give my condolences to the Floyd family.
The 45-year-old former officer faces more legal challenges, including federal civil rights charges in this and another case from 2017. His next trial, as well as state and federal proceedings against 3 other former officers charged in the Floyd case, will begin in coming months. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Fred DeSam Lazaro in Minneapolis.
We get reaction and insight now into today's sentencing from Tracy Mears. She's a professor of law and co-founder of the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School. Tracy Mears, great to have you back on the NewsHour. 22 years plus for Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd. Given this crime, what is your reaction to this sentence?
My reaction when watching the hearing was that the judge landed on a sentence that many of us expected, given that the average sentence was 12.5 years, a 10-year upward departure based on a finding of 2 aggravated circumstances was basically what I was expecting, even though it wasn't the 30 years that the prosecution asked for.
So is it your sense, we knew that the max was possibly 40, and many people felt that there should have been even more of a sentence. Is it your sense, though, that this was the right, fair decision?
I think since the guidelines attempt to shape a judge's discretion, and the prosecution made specific arguments based on 4 aggravating factors, the judge relied on 2 of them, abuse of authority and excessive cruelty. At least that's what the judge said in court. I haven't read the 22-page memorandum. But I think those who are watching that sentence or reading about it should understand that it's a very serious sentence for there to be 10 years above a 12.5-year average sentence for second-degree murder.
So going forward, I think the larger question is, does Chauvin's conviction and now sentence actually change police behavior going forward? What do you think about that?
That is the question that everyone's thinking about. Here's what I think. I think it was incredibly important for the judge to listen to people who have said that in the past, courts have not taken this behavior seriously by imposing a serious sentence, 10 years above the 12.5-year average. I also think folks are right to settle on an opinion that just looking at an individual case, even in an incredibly egregious factual circumstance like this, is not going to by itself be a signal that's going to change policing wholesale. It's not going to get us into the kind of support for safety that many people are asking for, that looks beyond the carceral approach that police take today.
All right, Tracy Mears of Yale Law School, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
I welcome the opportunity, William.